Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you missed an episode or want to get more information about the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Sam Sesti. He's the president at ONU. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I think what you guys are doing is actually really, really interesting and innovative. But maybe before we kind of get into that, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
For sure. I grew up in a suburb of Detroit called Waterford.
Okay.
Kind of, northwest of Detroit, about, 50 miles outside the city.
Got you.
Grew up there up until through high school and, then went off to college.
Okay, so what kind of got you interested in computer science and kind of the whole tech space? Was there like a defining moment in your childhood, do you remember, or did you kind of just fall into it, or what got you kind of into the whole tech kind of computer science space? Yeah,
for sure. I was 13 years old. My parents bought me a Commodore 64 for Christmas.
Nice.
And that was really, yeah, exactly. I had been an Atari guy up till then, playing video games and Pong. I try to explain that to my kids and they laugh. The sticks with the ball. But they bought me that Commodore 64 and I was immediately drawn to it. I taught BASIC to myself by reading the books that you could buy and I made programs for what I thought kids my age would like to do.
Interesting. Okay, so obviously that's kind of why you decided to get a Bachelor of Science, or kind of walk me through what was the rationale behind doing that?
Yeah, like I said, I just felt it was something I was really passionate about, whether, be doing stuff on my own at home or when I was in high school, the limited computer classes you could take. I, was really interested in those. So I went off to University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, go Blue. And, when I got there, like everybody, that freshman year, you kind of feel things out, take your chemistries and your electives and your psychologies and all the stuff that, kind of getting your feet wet and learning what the college experience is about. But again, when it came time, I think my first programming class, it was Pascal back then. And
nice.
I was, again, immediately back where I was, when I got that first Commodore 64, and I felt at home and I felt like it was something I had passion about. So I tried some other classes and things, and, those were the ones I keep coming back to. So that's where I decided to get my degree. And from there, that's, really springboard to the rest.
Sure. So you graduate university, you were kind of a developer, you led development teams. Kind of walk me through your post-university career before you decided to get involved with ONU.
Yeah, so it started out pretty simple. I mean, everyone is going to have your entry-level job.
Sure.
I was in accounting software, which is, about as exciting as it sounds. I'm programming about things I had never even heard of before: accounts payable, accounts receivable. I don't have a big financial background, but that's where I was put. So I learned as much as I could, and I got lucky enough that our group that I worked with on the accounting software side got bought by a company called Pro Systems, which was a spinoff of EDS, Ross Pro's companies. And from there, I got put on a project at a startup movie studio called Savoy Pictures, and I got to travel to California and work on that project for about 13 months and live out in the Santa Monica, Venice area.
Beautiful area.
And yeah, it's amazing. If everyone could go there, they'd probably never come back. But it was great, and so I got hooked up with a few individuals that were technical in that space and understood the business. And they then later, once I left there, I went back to another accounting company with some people I had worked for at my first stint. And a couple guys I had worked with out at the movie studio started a company that was creating a kind of a back office system for film distribution, a mission critical system for major studios. And the Y2K was coming up. Yeah, it was really cool. And Y2K was coming up, and the large studios like Paramount, Universals, and Fox were in need of a new solution that was off the mainframes, and they kind of hit it at the perfect time. And they called me and asked if I was interested. So I became a partner and the first employee, and kind of from there, the rest is history. Started this company, and now the software that we created is, de facto standard domestically for film distribution software, and probably about 70% of the box office.
Wow.
That is out today still run through what's called Hollywood Software's software. So it was a great time, actually.
That's cool. So what exactly is ONU, and what are you guys doing?
So ONU is really it's a first of its kind. We saw the need. I work with a company called the Pixo Group here in the Detroit area, on a consulting basis, and
Sure.
They're kind of a experiential type agency, if you will. They create a lot of mobile apps and virtual reality type apps for big brands, and
Sure.
they were coming across the same challenge on a weekly basis, which is that creating assets for real-time rendering engines like mobile, web, or augmented or virtual reality is hard.
Sure.
It's labor intensive. It's not a lot of repeatability involved, not a lot of automation. So we created ONU to solve that problem and make the ability to create real-time renderable assets, take down the cost, the time involved, and really commoditize it a little more, because it's mostly done on a service basis up till now. So we call it a 3D asset platform for 3D visualization and real-time rendering, and it's essentially the first of its kind.
Okay, so obviously I get it, but for people that are listening, it's probably maybe hard to kind of picture that. So how do you explain what you guys are doing to people that, can't really look at it right away? And I do recommend people go to your website, like onu1.com, and check it out. But how do you describe it to people?
Again, we try to say is we can help people market, sell, train on, or, service their products using 3D visualization. And when I say that, I guess it's best to define it.
Sure.
So, 3D visualization has been used, for years in like print advertising,
Yep.
or for like fly-through videos or stuff like that, where, you've got companies here right in the Detroit area that do an amazing job at taking CAD files from automotive here, and they'll make beautiful 3D renders out of those CAD models. So they'll take artists and, apply different materials and shading and lighting, and, put it in a desert or a mountain backdrop or wherever it's supposed to be. And it never really existed, that shot. They made it.
Sure.
But it's all been very static. So it's like, it's like a comic book, if you will, versus what we're doing is more like an animated cartoon, real time, interactive, gives users the ability to look at a product like, say a football helmet, zoom in, zoom out, rotate it around, see how it actually looks on the inside through, exploding it apart and things like that. So again, our technology is able to take from the very beginning. Let's use that football helmet example.
Sure.
Because we work with a football helmet company here in Detroit called Zenith Helmets. And what they were able to do is we took their CAD, they're the manufacturer, so they have CAD that they use to manufacture their product.
Sure.
And they gave it to us. Our technology takes that CAD file, converts it into something that's, polygonal, which means, something that's ready for real-time rendering on like a game engine or WebGL.
Sure.
And optimizes it and removes some of the density, but keeps the same high quality look that their product, is pretty much, that makes their product, look great. So you add on a little bit of photorealism, and then what we can now make is something embedded on their website. If you go to their website, you can shop for their helmet. You can change the shell color real time, the face mask color, the type of face mask, the color of the chin cup. Eventually we're going to be adding, face shields and things in there. So it really takes that process of taking that CAD file and moving it into WebGL with all those customization options, and something that would generally maybe cost six figures for a company to do, and brings that cost way, way down.
Sure. No, I think it's really cool, right? Like it's kind of up until kind of you guys built this product, this kind of stuff existed, but very, very kind of rudimentary. And to your point, like you'd literally have to take a football helmet and like put it into Photoshop, make all the different color versions on, and as they click through, you're just loading a new image. But like with your guys is you can literally just like pull, like you said, kind of like pull it apart, change the thing real time, and like move it around almost like it's digitally in front of you, right? And you guys kind of tie into the VR and kind of mobile space. So how do you take, like, let's say the football helmet and take it into like a VR and kind of mobile space? Because you mentioned obviously online. So how do you guys kind of transition to make it so it works kind of on all the different mediums?
Yeah, so that's kind of the, one of the later parts of the pipeline for our platform. Once you have that CAD file in, you've got all the nice look and feel applied, we then have the ability to publish it out to different engines. So WebGL being the one that's used online, but other ones like mobile and or possibly, for sure, augmented and virtual reality are going to use game engines. So Unity or Unreal.
Sure.
We have the ability to publish to those and mediums. So then you can, take what would be that helmet or any other product, in the case of like a virtual reality, think of like a water filtration system that's meant for industrial use. Try taking that to a trade show or on a sales call, and it's, 10 feet tall by 20 feet wide, weighs a couple tons. And, you can't really get it looks fine on a mobile device like a phone, or it looks fine on a website, but you don't really get, the feeling for the scale of it until you're in front of it, so being able to take, and that's something that's really, really becoming a need now as virtual reality and augmented reality are about to explode. It's already started. People want to create these experiences, and they want to create it around their product or their service. And the thing that's really standing in the way is creating those 3D assets, because most of the CAD that is out there is heavy, it's dense, it's got a lot of data that's not needed for those virtual reality or real-time engines. And that's where our stuff really, comes into play. So we can, optimize them for those end uses very quickly and very efficiently. Sure.
No, I think that's actually really, really cool and innovative how you guys are doing this. Like, I wish I hope people go to your kind of site and just check out your demo videos of this stuff, because I think like it's still like a bit hard to kind of visualize a little bit just when you're talking about it, like how kind of immersive it is, right? Because and how cool it is to be able to peel kind of parts of things apart, kind of like live in front of you to like see stuff. Because especially when you're kind of shopping online or you're trying out a different kind of product, obviously the more you can kind of see the different layers is really helpful. So what else kind of works really well with your platform? Like we've kind of covered the football helmet, and you have a few other kind of examples. So just for the listener, like what are other kind of really good things that people can do with your platform?
We've had great success with footwear, believe it or not.
Okay.
We've worked with a couple companies that are looking to use it to replace the concept of sales samples. So just a little background. What happens is when shoe manufacturers are going to create a certain new line of shoes, or even a carryover line that existed before, they'll generally create a sample of every, colorway, they call it, like a color combination, for their salespeople to take out and show their retailers. So, hey, Dick's Sporting Goods. Would you buy this one or this one or this one or that one? And that's costly and it's resource intensive. I mean, you've got a lot of resources that get wasted and a lot of money involved in creating a size 9 men's or a size 7 women's that goes out
Sure.
to every salesperson to every spot. So we've worked with a few companies to start the process of digitizing those sales samples so that they don't have to bring out every one. Maybe they bring out one or two, but the rest can be on like an iPad or something like that so they can, get a good feel. I mean, we can make the photorealism we can get is pretty amazing. So, you can get texture and material that looks and, feels the same, spin it around, zoom in on it. But it's just not, you do that without taking all the resources for creating the real thing.
Sure. No, that's interesting because you're right. You could literally show them like one shoe physically in, I don't know, like a certain color, and then all the other color combinations you could just visually show them on an iPad, right? So they could at least just,
Right.
Yeah, that's actually really, really cool. So walk me through the full process. Like I don't know, like let's go with the shoe example now. So I send you my latest shoe design as a CAD file, and then what happens? Or is it
so?
Okay, keep going.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say,
And then
or is there a step before that?
No, really, all of this starts with us having a CAD file. And, we're making this, more accessible to the average user every day. So we're getting ready to release it where people, any user will be able to upload their CAD, convert it right online, and be able to spin it around in a web viewer like within minutes.
Interesting.
So. Yeah, that'll be cool because there's a lot of pent-up demand for that as we talk to the market. But in the case of like a footwear designer, for example, there's a couple different pipelines that can happen. Some of these footwear manufacturers use specific software that's meant for designing shoes. It's like CAD, but a little different just because, you're working with fabric as
Sure.
opposed to, hard materials. So we're working with those software companies to help create direct pipelines from their software into ONU so that they can just push it straight through. And then, at that point, they've got a material library or a color library that they can then import into our software. And from there, publish it right out to web or mobile. And really, it's almost fully automated at that point.
Sure. No, that's really cool. So what is the cost currently for kind of the version where I send you the CAD file, and then what's going to be the cost for me to do it myself online?
So right now, when you send us a CAD file and we turn it into a 3D asset, that's all a service-based cost right now. So it's just labor. We just base it on an hourly rate,
Gotcha.
times number of hours.
Gotcha.
The great news about that is as our tools get better, the cost goes way down. I mean, when we were doing this 2 years ago and we didn't have all the tools in place, something like a football helmet may have cost someone $3,000 or $4,000.
Gotcha.
Now you're probably down into the hundreds of dollars for each type of part, and that's going to go down all the time. When we do get it commercialized for people to do it themselves, we'll do it on a subscription basis. We will be the only fully cloud enabled CAD conversion and optimization option. So we just want to do it on a subscription type basis where it's X dollars per month, and you can convert up to this many files for that purpose.
Got you. And then when do you think you're going to release that? Is that sometime this summer or?
Yeah, we're hoping to do it later in the summer. Right now we're working with testing partners to get the robustness tested. There's so many different CAD formats out there and so many different types of uses and file sizes and stuff like that. So we've got probably 6 or 7 different companies we're working with to just feed us as much as we can get. And we're just, as we see any challenges, we work through them, and at the same time working on coming up with our marketing and pricing and all that stuff so that once the tool's ready, we'll be ready to release it commercially.
Sure. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into kind of how you guys are using virtual reality. We kind of covered it a little bit, but I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper. Can you give me and the listener some good examples of how you're using your guys' platform and virtual reality?
Yeah, I can. So I'll give you, because I'd mentioned that we work with the Pixel Group here
Yeah.
in the Detroit area here, and their specialty is actually training in virtual reality. So in one case, we're working with energy companies to help them train their technicians on dangerous type situations that they don't want to try to recreate in real life. You can imagine, if you're an energy company and you've got a trainee out there, you don't want to put them in a certain situation the very first time they're out in the field where they could put themselves in danger. So looking to use virtual reality to, make that accessible to people without, without putting in the cost and the risk involved with doing it in real life. All the way down to, there's possibilities around, other types of training like tactical training for government and or law enforcement. Right now you have these shooting type ranges where they have these different types of experiences, but they're all very canned. You know what I mean? Like the same thing kind of happens every time, and they're based on some video footage and stuff like that. Doing it in virtual reality, you can do randomized scenarios, you can do scoring, data analytics and gathering, all sorts of stuff that you have a hard time doing, whether it be in real life training or in that sort of video simulation training.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually really, really interesting. So I'm I'm curious then, other than kind of rolling into kind of, an online platform, what are you guys trying to accomplish kind of throughout the rest of the year and then maybe kind of beyond? Because realistically, once you guys put this tool in the hands of kind of designers and developers and kind of other creative types, and I give you kind of whatever's in a CAD file, or kind of maybe at some point you guys support other file formats if you don't already, it's almost like limitless, right? Because if I can export out to Unity, for example, and then I can start writing some code around that for my iPhone or my iPad or Android app, it's almost limitless, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we really are excited to see where people take it. That's kind of the idea with the platform, as you put in place the tools and the abilities for the market, and they kind of generally push it beyond where you ever thought it could go. So we're really excited to have, start putting these different pieces in place. And that will include, hopefully the ability for, the creative types that you talked about to be able to do a lot of the visualization within our platform. So there's a product out there called Keyshot that's something that creative types use. And again, it takes in CAD or other types of files, has its own materials library of thousands of materials like metals and chrome, aluminum, rubber, whatever it might be, fabrics, and you can mock up or kind of create this beautiful looking image that can be then exported out as like a still image that people use for advertising and marketing across the world. Again, though, it's not real time when it's exported, so we're hoping to fill that gap as well, where a normal user could do some of that work without having to use these different tools. We could do it just using the platform.
Sure. No, I think that's really cool. And the other thing I found really fascinating, you have a really good blog post about the how to fit a car in a Pelican case, and I thought that was really cool because, and I'll let you explain it kind of a bit better in a second, but I think being able to kind of, if you can live customize a car and see all the parts and kind of take it apart, was really cool to me, right? Because, so do you want to maybe kind of just dive a bit deeper into exactly what you guys are doing, say in that kind of car space, and what the blog post was about?
Yeah, that one was specifically about, being able to bring large objects, to life without having to have the large object. I mean, anyone that goes to trade shows can see where, you've got you go to the auto show, or even SEMA out in Vegas, or any of the ones, the construction shows like Connex, or those, people are bringing cranes and Jeeps and giant products or objects into the trade show floor. And what we're trying to get across there specifically is, look, you can do all of that in a VR type situation, and you can do more then. So one, you're not constrained by the booth size, you're not constrained on the cost that the things that go along with shipping products to a show, the handling and the drayage and all of the setup and shutdown and all of those things. You can maximize your investment, do whatever you want in a VR situation, and then think about what you were just talking about, configuring and color changing. And so if I'm at a booth at SEMA and I've got one type of Jeep there, what I'm accessorizing with, I'm still only looking at the specific accessories on that Jeep, on that specific model of Jeep, on that specific color of Jeep. Whereas if I'm in the virtual reality situation, I can, have the cool yellow one, or I can have the blue one, the black one. I can have the, the Wrangler, the Rubicon. I can go to any model I want, all in that same space.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually really, really cool and interesting how you guys are kind of tackling this whole kind of space. But I'm curious to maybe dive a little bit more kind of technical on kind of maybe the back end of this thing. So how are you guys, or like what technology are you actually writing the software in?
So from that standpoint, we've got a good team here that has a pretty diverse background.
Okay.
We've chosen the Java stack for most of our stuff. We take advantage of AWS, so Amazon Web Services, which gives us a very robust back end to build against, maximum uptime and failover and all of those things. And then we just use which frameworks make sense. There's new frameworks coming out every day, some around WebGL, some around, content management and things that we have to worry about. And so, we got, like I said, we got a really good team that is constantly making sure that we're using the best, or the latest things that make sense for us, whether it be the React, for the front end, or like I said, WebGL stuff. So, again, mostly a Java stack, but that's just based on really what makes sense for us at the time.
Sure. So are you guys also going to release like a desktop version of the software, or you're going to just specifically stick in browser?
Yeah, our strategy is to stay cloud-based.
Okay.
Like I said, we're really the only ones playing exclusively in that space for a lot of this, CAD conversion and 3D asset management. So we feel that's a good differentiator for us. We do plan to create plugins where it makes sense. Like if we needed a plugin for a CAD program, or needed a plugin for like a Unity or an Unreal to make our tool or our technology more accessible, or the platform more accessible for certain users, but our core will always stay at the cloud.
Sure. Are you guys also going to release like a developer kit, or is that just not really in the cards?
Yeah, we do have full API. So everything we do is, REST API based. So, at some point when it comes to like, let's say CAD conversion, if like a large company wanted to create their own pipeline using our API, we'd be fully open to that.
Yeah. Okay. Cause that like, I'm just kind of thinking to like your previous experience kind of in the movie industry, like they have tons of proprietary tools that they would potentially use. Right. So they might leverage your platform, but kind of want their own proprietary stuff kind of out on the side of that. That's actually really interesting. And I think what I find really fascinating about your guys' company as well is just your cloud-based focus, because realistically you could use your stuff on a Chromebook then, right? Like you don't need this crazy, kind of traditionally for kind of what you would do if I was building this on the desktop. You need a pretty beefy PC, to actually render this stuff out and do this kind of stuff, right? Where, you guys kind of take care of all the heavy lifting for me, correct?
Exactly. I think that you just hit it on the head. I mean, we every day are evaluating different, whether it be 3D modeling programs or CAD conversion programs or optimization programs, and they're all desktop based. And I can tell you from experience that our guys are constantly pushing the limits of their, what I would call, supercomputer laptops,
Sure.
are, constantly shutting down or overheating or, so that computing power is all isolated for each individual, as well as the licensing is like per seat licensing, which is sometimes not cost effective. So, we figure we can push that, that computing out to us and, take advantage of, the cloud stuff that's out there, and also, let people, like you said, do it from maybe whether or not they don't have, a supercomputer at their desk and still get the same capabilities.
Sure. So I'm curious, did you guys kind of self-fund this? Did you guys raise some capital, or like walk me through kind of how you, because obviously, like you have a bunch of clients, but when you're first kind of building this thing early on, how did you guys kind of fund this?
Yeah, we're angel funded, so we
Okay.
have some local investors here in the Detroit area, some guys that we knew from past experience, and they saw the concept. We brought it to them, with a business plan, and they were all about it. So they were, generous enough to fund us out for as long as we needed, before we could get some revenue in, and they're still, friends of the company and help us out when needed, and it's been a great relationship for us.
Sure. No, I think that's really great, right? And it's always kind of interesting to see kind of how people kind of, because you like right now, at least you guys are a little bit kind of like client service / startup, right? And it's kind of an
Yep.
interesting space to play in, and obviously you're going to transition kind of into offering more, like you said, in the cloud where people pay a subscription. But I'm still assuming that there's going to be some clients that still want you guys to, just like take their file and do it for them. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get away from that. I think that's just a reality of when you create something, you can, we back in the day used to call it, creating tools for the janitor. And I think that meant, you can't create something that every last person on earth could ever use. And
Sure.
some people just don't want to take the time to learn it. So, we try to make stuff that makes sense for the personas that we see as the most viable, but there's always going to be people that, don't fit into those buckets. So we're always open to helping them out.
Sure. So I'm curious then. So I upload my CAD file, it renders out. How do I, like, do you guys have your own kind of player? I know you mentioned WebGL, but like, how are you guys displaying that on a phone? Do you guys render me out an app, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, there's a couple ways that can happen on a phone. Let's just talk, go back to the browser. We have
Sure.
our own WebGL player that we've created that,
Okay.
has capabilities that can then be embedded into any website. So, if you're, for example, Zenith helmets, we create that. We have those assets stored in our asset management system, and then we can give them a code like an embed code, almost like embedding a YouTube video onto your website,
Got you.
and just put that small amount of JavaScript in there, and then they're up and running, and then they can do all the customization through our JavaScript API very simply. So they could add 10 more colors in the next half hour if they wanted to.
Oh,
It's kind of on
interesting.
them at that point. From a mobile perspective, again, that's something that we have our own mobile app. Actually, it can, where people can download, in the app stores if you have a subscription, and then you can put your products in through that. Or we've also done branded mobile apps for companies. Zenith is one of them that they can have their salespeople go out B2B and sell that way as well.
Okay, interesting. That's actually really cool and makes kind of a lot of sense. And then obviously I could export it out and put it into my own mobile app with my own developers, correct?
Yep, for sure.
Okay, kind of like to the Unity point or whatever, right? Like that's
Yep.
that's actually
Yep. Yeah.
that's actually really cool.
If you had Unity developers. Yeah, I know it's cool. I mean, if you had Unity developers, you could use our platform just like we do. Like I said, we have APIs and stuff. So
Sure. So We're kind of coming to the end of the show. Is there anything else that you kind of want to maybe mention that's coming, or is it still kind of too early to talk about some stuff? Or, kind of where do you think the platform's going to go in the next kind of year? I know you want to launch kind of a SaaS product, but is there anything else that you kind of want to promote and mention that are kind of happening this year?
Yeah, I think, like I said, getting the platform fully commercialized from CAD all the way through publish, and
Sure.
then, I'd love to see where the market takes it. My, I guess we call it educated guess is that we'll see a ton of usage for VR and AR.
Sure.
If you're a technical person, you read about technology, you can't go, 5 seconds browsing online without seeing virtual reality and mention of that.
Sure.
And augmented reality is right on the heels. Once the hardware catches up and is really viable in augmented reality, I think we'll see that in so many uses, especially like training and service, and having something that you can put on your head, that's not really intrusive to your movement, and be able to get a second screen experience, almost data on top of reality, is something that I think is going to really surprise people when, they start to see just how far it's going to come really soon.
Sure. And I think once the cost comes down, like I know Google like has their cardboard, and there's kind of a bunch of versions where you just put your iPhone or Android phone in like a little headset, or your Samsung phone or whatever. But I
Right.
think even as like the more expensive devices kind of come down in price as well, right? Like I think to your point, like I think kind of right now VR and AR kind of seems a little bit like maybe it's just for like kind of gamers or techie people, but I think it's very quickly going to kind of trickle down into just like everyday usage, right? For maybe just people online, with even your own platform, right? Like I think people are just it's happening whether they kind of realize it or not.
Yeah, I think it's where you're really starting to see it get really seeded is in business. So,
Okay.
actual enterprise application of virtual reality and soon augmented reality. Like I mentioned, some of those training type situations, I think service and, education, and you'll just see it start to permeate through business. It's still early, obviously. Like you said, in a way, it's been a toy, a gaming thing, something that people are like, oh, wow, is that really going to go somewhere? And I think that the answer is yes, definitely. It's going to happen. And now it's just a matter of finding, different companies at their own pace adopting it.
Sure. And like companies like yourself just making it affordable for kind of companies, right? Because you mentioned to your point, like
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago, it was maybe a few $1,000s to do, like a helmet. And now if it's like hundreds of dollars, and then even with like your subscription model, if it's, I can do X amount for whatever the fee is monthly, like the cost is going to come down so much. And to your point, like it's basically instant, right?
Yeah.
And then being able to just literally upload something right away and then show that off to somebody with different color combinations and pull it apart, like that's actually really, really cool and kind of the future.
Yeah, for sure. And, I don't want to use the word commoditize. I think that's too simplistic, but I think really making, this efficient and affordable and accessible for more people than just the few people that know how to program this stuff is really where we're going to hit our sweet spot.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. But sadly, we're coming to the end of the show, so let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about you guys and any other links you want to mention.
Yeah, the best place to find out about us is onu1.com. It's ONU, the number one.com. It has, information about our capabilities and our products, and, how to get hold of us, and, different companies we've worked with and different use cases and stuff like that. Other than that, it's basically just start looking around for, the uses of real-time rendering, and, WebGL is a good thing to understand as it's browser-based application of real-time 3D rendering, and, game engines like Unity and Unreal. But there's a whole host of, there's a whole ecosystem environment of people out there that live this, you know, these 3D modeler types and agencies and things like that use all these tools like, you know, Maya and Modo and 3ds Max, and these guys all know what I'm talking about. And
Sure.
then there's going to be, you know, this is going to move into, you know, manufacturing space, and all those people are starting to understand. So we're excited about all that, and you know, we're really excited to be part of the Detroit, you know, kind of startup-y tech scene, which has grown amazingly over the last few years, kind of as Detroit's been making its comeback. So that's something that we're really excited to be part of as well.
Sure, man. That's great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time in your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too, Kevin. Thanks for the time, and it was really enjoyable, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, man. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check them out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.